Mark, when are you going to play Xenogears?
Never.
He's not.
What do you mean never?
Are we recording right now?
Why would you say never? I bought it for you for your birthday, first of all.
Oh.
So that's kind of a mean thing to say.
Snap.
You said
Here's
Xeno.
the thing, JJ.
Hold on. Never mind. I thought you asked about Xenoblade
When are you going to play that game I got you? Never.
It's kind of
Suck it.
It's the old school
We're
scene.
we're here to talk about Xenoblade, so I just was half listening to you and assumed you had said
Oh, what a
Xenoblade.
shocker.
I half surprised
So-
Mark to be like, hey JJ, you want to buy this game I got called Xenogears? And you're like, I bought that for you for your birthday. And he's like, do you like it? I love it.
You are terrible. Thank you so much. My feelings aren't hurt,
You're welcome.
that much.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 71 of the Frozen North Gaming Podcast. My name is JJ, and I'm here with my two friends and co-host, Mark.
Howdy, y'all! I'm sitting next to Brian right now.
And Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. That's all.
Oh, boy. Episode 70, number 1.
70 episode 70 number 1, which is 4 away from 75, which that's also an arbitrary number, so we're just going somewhere.
We've just been recording for the last, 2 hours, and
We're a little
it's,
loopy.
10:30 almost. And
You're,
so
you're
we're a little
destroying the
loopy.
illusion.
You know what? If anything, it's going to make it seem more magical.
You got me.
70 number 1.
I'm going to use my power of editing. We are talking Xenoblade Chronicles today, and boy, do we have a lot to say about it.
I mean, it's a big game, so expect a big, long-winded discussion.
I'm predicting that it's going to take a
Hold on.
long time to get through.
Crystal Ball says we're going to have a lot to say about this game, but only because A, it's a great game, and B, it's a long game. So C,
Absolutely.
Mark will never play it or finish it.
He's not arguing.
No,
He
I know,
knows.
I know.
He knows what's up.
Yeah.
He knows what's up. Oh, man.
What is your threshold? What hour limit of a game would you be just nope? Where do you just?
I don't know, man. It
What
depends
can
on
you
the
push?
game. I mean,
No, I
'cause
mean,
it does.
Mass Effect.
Yeah.
That's
Mass
very
Effect
true.
2.
That's very true. That's a 40 to 50 hour game right there. Okay,
Yeah, come on.
okay, that shows okay.
Don't be hating.
No, you got you.
I'll tell you what, though. I'll beat any game that's 4 hours long.
Right.
Any game that's 4 hours long?
As long as it's not completely terrible. I'm not going to play some garbage game.
I guess.
Yeah, but you play City Skylines, so
I guess it
I
shows
walked
how.
into
you
that
walked
one.
into that.
I guess
yeah.
it shows how good Mass Effect 2 specifically was. That's the longest one that you
Yeah.
played it and beat it, and it's a 40 plus hour game. So
Him and I both got through that in a week and a half.
yeah,
It was
so
crazy.
I can
was
see
good, though.
I can see Mark. Give me a high five.
There it is. There's that high five. So what have you guys been playing?
Mark, go ahead.
I've been playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. I've put about, 20, 25 hours into the game in the past week.
And how many save scums?
Oh, all kinds of save scums. So many save scums.
Gotcha.
It was creepy the way you said that. Ooh.
Save
All
scum.
kinds of saves.
That's my favorite.
Take a step.
No, I messed up my no-kill streak because I threw this gas grenade down into a hallway, and I think it spooked some guards, and they went and killed this guy I was supposed to rescue.
Dang it.
Good
So
one.
I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not doing my... Oh, and then I saved a bunch of times without thinking about it.
That was probably within the first 20 minutes of the game
Yeah.
too.
Well,
It's oh man, my perfect run.
I watched him play it.
No,
when we-
no, man. I was. It was in Hong Kong that I did that. That's halfway through the game.
I'll take your word
Let
for
me
it.
describe Mark's. I watched him play it when we had our LAN party at my house, and it's in cover, shoot a guy, save, move to new cover, save, shoot a guy, save, move to new cover,
would.
save. I'm telling you, it was Mark's. It's real. It's great. But that's how he likes to play games, so I can't criticize him.
Yeah, I put 25 hours into it this week doing that.
Heck
So
yeah,
clearly
give
I
me that.
enjoy it.
High five again.
There you go. That all you've been playing?
That's it.
All right. I have been playing The Witcher 2, and it's been good.
You and Flotsam?
Wait, what?
You and Flotsam?
Yes. I'm
Gotcha.
awesome. I was like, are you making up words now?
it's
What?
the
Yes,
first
the
area
city,
that-
yeah. I beat the prologue,
Gotcha.
and
Can
I
you
like it so far. It's better.
Can you already tell it's worlds better than 1?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't it interesting the way the voice acting? They're all the same voice actors, but the voice acting is way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red really made, like, they learned. That's why I like the company. They're really good about, like, hey, our sound quality was kind of poor. Let's do better.
They just sound bored in the first game.
Yeah.
I beat 2 games in the past 2 weeks.
Man.
Mark.
That's a good 2.
Boom.
That's a good lifetime for Mark.
I beat Halo 2. Knocked out Halo 2 on the Master Chief Collection. And you know what? Halo 2 for multiplayer was my favorite one back in the day. I think I liked the first one as far as the story goes a little bit better. Not that it was bad. I don't know.
2 basically is like, the first part's like, it's going to be a new story, and then it's like, now we're just going to do 1 again.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's what, that.
A surprise! The Flood are back!
You're
Right.
playing
What a
it.
shocker!
It wasn't.
You're playing it. It's the story. If the story was a narrative, it'd be like, and then you do this cool thing on Earth, and then we're just gonna do 1 story real quick. And you're like, what?
Yep.
Okay.
And then I also finished Silent Hill 2.
Oh God, I don't know how you did that by yourself.
And I finished it at 11:30 p.m.
Oh no! Let me ask you a question. Was
it
every
was-
single light on in this apartment?
Dude, I cannot, like, if you've played the game, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this, but I cannot hear radio static now. Like, if I hear it, it will
God.
freak me out.
That is the worst part when you know enemies getting close and it's like you're just like no.
Nope.
Yeah.
But I told, if anybody remembers the last time when we did our Suikoden 2 episode and we had Ryan on from the SRM, I had promised him, I was like, next time, before you come on again, I will have beaten Silent Hill 2. Well, I did it, and he was the first person I told when I did it, and I was like, well, finally beat Silent Hill 2, and all of a sudden, just the flood of messages, and he's like, oh, we gotta talk about this,
Yeah.
I'm going crazy, and like, dude, talking to him is like one of the coolest things in the world because he's got so much insight and he looks so far deep into these things. Like, he was pulling out these meanings of things that I'm just like, I didn't. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
didn't at all. Nope.
Yeah.
But it was just very, very. I mean, if you've heard him on the show, you know
Absolutely.
that he's able to
Very
look
intelligent
into this stuff. And I really think this would be a good one to kind of do a review on eventually. I want Mark to play it though.
Shanna's gonna play it for him.
Yes.
I know. Okay. But I think I'd like you to experience the story, and I told him this too. I was like, because he asked, he was like, "Are you going to talk about it on the show?" And I was like, "I would love to. I want Mark to play it though, because I think
Mark would love it.
love the
You
story in the game. It's definitely your type. Just you got to
It
get past
is.
the freak factor.
Hey, that's real street cred on your scary gameplay. I mean, seriously, that game
I
is
couldn't do it.
not. That game is not for like the people who don't like. If you don't like scary games, Silent Hill 2 is like the king of don't play. I mean, the atmosphere alone is like absolutely skin.
And
like,
it wasn't even it wasn't even like the sound direction is what was really good about it. It wasn't even like if a monster came on the screen, that's when I got less scared.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
I was like, okay, there you are.
I can fight you. I know
Okay,
where you
cool.
are. Yeah.
But before that moment, I was terrified.
Yeah.
But so if people write in frozennorthpodcast@gmail.com, tell Mark to play this game.
I'll play it.
Well, Shannon will play
it's
it.
like
No, wait. I'm not going to play it until someone emails us and tells me to
I
play
beat it in 7 hours. It's short.
Nice.
It's really short. So I would say maybe like have an FAQ handy just in case you get like a lot of the stuff is really hard to find, the puzzles and everything.
Yeah.
Don't use it unless you have to, obviously, because it's really, really good to kind of experience everything organically. Mm-hmm. But there's a few items that it's like, I would have never gone back to this
It's
place
very
to look
like
at it.
it's actually Resident Evil like hard mode. It's like even hard. Like remember the old Resident? Did you ever play Resident Evil back in the day?
No.
I'm asking the wrong. Golly, I make that
bought-
mistake every time.
hey,
ever
I
play
bought it
video
on
games?
Hey, did you ever play that video game?
I bought the remastered Steam version.
He owns it.
Yeah, come on. I own it.
I always do that though. I'm like, did you remember playing that game? No, I'm looking at Mark right now.
I played Half-Life.
But yeah, so we will eventually get to that, and I think it'd be a good talking point for you on there.
Seriously, that the story is definitely one Mark can get to dive his brain into. Seriously.
And then I also, as you guys saw earlier today, I was playing Final Fantasy Online, but not 14, 11.
Ooh, going old school.
I got access to my old email account, and I was able to reactivate my old Final Fantasy 11 account, which, I mean, I mean, first thing I did was tell you guys, I was like, if I can get into my account, I won't see you guys for the next 3 months. Goodbye.
Well, it's true.
I freaking I was ecstatic and I was so excited. And like the past couple of days, I'd go to work and I would just think about 11 like crazy because I freaking love that game. Anybody who's coming into it now is probably going to hate it and think it's stupid. But man, and they've changed it so much since then. I could gush for a long time. I'm going to try and keep it short. But needless to say, I plan on playing 11 quite a bit over the next few months. So Bismarck server, if anybody wants to hop on there and check it out, let me know.
Mark Bismarck's the whale from 6.
Bismarcky server?
That's not. Nope. Do you even know what song he sings? Did you even know he was a singer?
Just a friend.
Oh, look at that! I'm
wow,
impressed. All right, Brian, what you been playing?
Final Fantasy 14, also an online Final Fantasy, and good night, Irene. This might actually. I'm not kidding you. This might actually be my favorite Final Fantasy game, story-wise. As weird as that sounds, it is amazing. And the boss fights in that game are so epic. They did a great job with that game. I can't give Squeenix and Yoshi P enough credit for the story. I mean, honestly, it will rival any Final Fantasy. I mean, I haven't played all of them. I'm still on my journey. Give me a little break here, but it might end up... I'm not quite done with Heaven's Ward yet, but it might very well be my favorite Final Fantasy. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
It is great.
Yep.
All right. If you would like to email us, you can do so at frozennorthpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is fngaming.net. Our Facebook is facebook.com/frozennorth. Our Twitter is @fnpodcast. Our blog is frozennorthpodcast.blogspot.com. We are on iTunes, where we would appreciate you subscribing to and rating us. I also want to give a quick shout out to, we talked about him last week, Shinra. 2 weeks ago. Shinra, they actually... They heard our show and they said they loved it, and they actually mentioned us on their recent video on YouTube, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Mark and I were giddy like little girls when we heard that and stuff.
I wasn't. I was giddy like a boy because I'm a man.
That's not true.
Damn it.
But I mean that was just so cool to hear, and just to know that they acknowledged us was enough.
Yeah,
you know,
it was amazing.
we were
Pretty
just
cool.
like, that's so cool. So Shinra.com, go check them out. SHINRA. Awesome stuff they're doing. And I mean, you can go listen to episode 70. We gushed about them for a while. So go check them out for sure. They are awesome, and they're doing some great stuff in the future. All right, we are going to hop over to our review of Xenoblade Chronicles now. We are actually bringing in Isaac, who is, if you go to our site, you will see a bunch of video game reviews on there, and he wrote most of those. Great writer, really good guy, and he loves Xenoblade, so we had to bring him in for this because he is like our resident Xenoblade expert.
Yeah.
He's got a great attention to detail, too.
Definitely. And you'll
impressive.
hear that in the review. So without any further ado, let's hop on over to us.
All right, let me get up and move over there. Yeah, okay.
Got it? You there? Okay. Here we go. All right, and we are here ready to do a review of Xenoblade Chronicles. I mean, I'm going to start off by saying best game on the Wii right there. So, boom, right there.
Hold on. Wii Sports.
The best game.
Most popular,
on the Wii.
sure.
Number one. It's
Anyways,
number one.
we have a guest joining us today. We got Isaac. He's our reviewer on the website, and I'm gonna just pretend my voice didn't crack right there.
We got puberty over here, guys.
All right.
But Isaac, what's going on, man?
Not much. I guess talk about Xenoblade.
Heck yeah, this is your favorite game of all time. Your bread and butter, right?
It is. It's Final Fantasy 14 is creeping up on it, but Xenoblade has the top spot for right now. So
Very cool.
Very cool.
And it's I mean, I don't think Mark hasn't played it, but I mean we're gonna review it, but I don't think Brian and I would argue that it's a phenomenal game.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, let's get right into this freaking review.
Let's dive in.
Developed by Monolith Soft and Nintendo, published by Nintendo. Isaac, can you give us just a little rough overview of the story of the game?
yeah, sure. Okay, stop me if you feel like this is full of tropes, because it actually is. This is a very tropey beginning of a story. So it starts off with these two giant god-like, basically, almost imagine them as giant beings fighting, and eventually come to a standstill. and then life begins to sprout on their bodies. And it cuts to the present, where you've got a long-haired youth by the name of Shulk, who happens to be a shy inventor. Yeah, okay, that's probably like 3 tropes right there. And he's trying to unlock the secrets of a magical sword. That's 4th trope. and through that, he finds out that there's a lot more to the sword than he thinks. And very important things happen to people around him that cause him to go on a journey to fight an evil group of sentient robots known as the Mechon that reside on the Titan that is opposite of his. He lives on the Bionis, which is as the name suggests, the biological Titan, and the Mechon, who are the robots he's trying to fight, live on the Mechanis, which is the mechanical Titan. And he goes on a journey with his friends, meets lots of interesting people, ranging from some characters some people call annoying to very, I think, deep characters, and there's even a few surprises along the way. Story takes lots of twists and turns. It's too complicated to explain once, but that's the basic premise. A person on a journey. It's a classic hero's journey at the beginning, and it unfolds into a little tiny bit of political drama. It's not Final Fantasy 12, but it unfolds into a little bit of political drama, and along the way, he experiences a journey, and it begins to realize who he is, who people around him are, what the worlds really mean, and what's the secret behind the sword, the Monado, which is the only thing that can kill the Mechon that he's trying to defeat. And that's a very rough wrap up of Xenoblade. The story is much more in depth.
Definitely. I really, really want to drive the point home. Like, one of the most impressive things about this game is the setting. And like you said, the Bionis and the Mechanis are just these 2 titans who are basically like just big, giant, humanoid-looking things that are just locked in combat.
Yeah.
But they are the size of what we would think of as like bodies of land that people are living on. Creatures are all over the place. I mean, you're exploring these things, and you're literally walking like. Yeah. One zone is the head of the Bionis. The next is the
shoulder,
left leg, the shoulder. Yeah, exactly. And they're huge, and that's kind of one of the big draws to this.
Yeah, at one point you run across the sword of the Mechanis, and
driven deep into the side of the Bionis, and as you can cross and you can see the different landscapes, intermingling and stuff. The Wii doesn't exactly have the most powerful hardware, but the sense of scale that comes with that is all I've always felt was very impressive.
Yeah.
So. I mean, considering it's on the Wii, I mean, what they did with it is like
what they did. The vistas were still like you're like, whoa, this is on the Wii.
I mean, it's. I don't mean this to sound negative, but you kind of look at that and you say, like, what if this was on the PS3 or
exactly.
something like that?
Yeah, you kind of feel like wasted potential at that point, but they did a great.
They did
given
a fantastic
the low development
job.
cost, given the low development cost of the Wii, maybe it wouldn't have been nearly as possible on a more complicated platform. To give that sort of open world, or at least kind of open world like Xenoblade is very hard to perform on that harder hardware without large teams. So maybe the fact that it was on the Wii was a good thing in the end for it. Because,
could be, yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll get right into pros. Mark, what do you got for pros?
Yep.
For my first pro, I would say I always have a fun time listening to you guys talk about this game. I like the voices that you guys do for all the different characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Brian, what's the name of the episode?
What a bunch of jokers!
That was worse than ever.
Not offensive at all.
Nope. That's what it's called, but it's what a bunch of jokers. What a bunch of jokers!
What was that?
Sounds like drunk Sean Connery.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man. So I can't do the Cockney British accent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess obviously Mark has not played this game. It's just a little too much of a game for him. So, no, but it's a huge time sink. It took me a long time to play it. It took Brian a long time to play it, and
very long.
Mark would have had to go out and buy it, and which you have a 3DS, right? But you don't have a new one.
Not the new one.
Right. Yeah. So you would have either had to get a new 3DS or get the game on the Wii. So
it was a lot of obstacles. I mean, he'd have to buy it, that's a big obstacle, and then he'd have to buy the system to play it on, which is a big obstacle. But then the biggest obstacle of all is he'd actually have to play a video game.
I would have no trouble starting the game.
Well, exactly. Mark is the ultimate serial video game starter.
I guarantee you, though, you would love the music in it for sure.
Oh yeah,
that sounds really good. Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest pros right there is the music. I mean, it's just every single time that I started up the game, I remember I played it last year, but every single time I started up, I had to listen to the opening theme because it was absolutely
very
gorgeous.
good.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to go on to the next thing, but if you got something to say about the music, go for it.
Well, that's my favorite thing about the game, to be honest. I love to death everything else about the game, but the music to me is in a completely different league from music that I've heard in a lot of other games. And I love Nintendo a lot, so I can call forth a bunch of different memories I have from musical pieces from across all of Nintendo's spectrum and library and across all the rest of gaming. Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, Xenoblade has the best soundtrack I've ever heard in a game. It is next level. The musicians were really, really pushed to the limit by the producer, Tetsuya Takahashi. They said that it was the most stressful environment they've ever worked in because he kept sending them back and back, back to back, working to redo the music every single time. They came with it to him, and it really shows the fact that these are really finely crafted pieces, in my opinion. Now, there's a few tracks that I'm kind of bleh about. The Valak Mountain soundtrack isn't exactly the best. It's a little but some of the best songs, Those Who Fight Further, and the boss theme, the final boss theme, all of them are, and Gar Plains especially, which is I felt was a very, very good piece. All the music I feel like is just crafted in such a way that they even said they tried to make it almost like a movie soundtrack, so they extended the length of the songs. They felt like they wanted it to be like a quick, but able to be looped easily, and it really shows the fact that this was this music was held under very tight editorial control by the producer, and he used it to match instead of just complement the way the world was being designed and everything. And I think it's the strongest pillar of the game, in my opinion.
I would say that I agree. I'd say I put it just below. Final Fantasy XIV's already overtaken Mass Effect for best music I've ever heard in a game.
Whoa.
Yeah.
With Soken's tracks.
Wow.
And of
It is good.
Soken is great.
Yeah, Soken's got dude, some of the music in that game I could just listen to over and over again. And then obviously Mass Effect, that music is also emotional driving, and then Xenoblade, the music definitely stood out to me as well as one of the best musical games out there.
Very
for
cool.
sure.
And then I also have to I brought up the setting. That's probably my favorite part of the game. Is for one, oh man, I wish there was a flying mount or something, which we are going to be getting in the new Xenoblade Chronicles, which I'm so excited for. Because I would have loved to have been able to fly out and look at the entire the two Titans and then actually be able to fly right into one of those zones.
Oh yeah,
I think that'd be so
great,
cool.
yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a last gen game. I don't know that they would have had the power to do so, but
it was a very unique setting.
Yes.
That's the thing that really stood out. Is you do not see games nowadays having such a unique setting like this, and that's one of the biggest intriguing factors of the game. Is I'm on one of these Titans.
Yeah. Especially, in a JRPG, they're not exactly known for the most original settings.
Right, it's very true.
Most of the time.
yeah, you're on a planet, or you're and you go to another planet, or through a portal or something,
and it's always named Ezavazarineve.
Yeah.
Yes, Ezavazarineve.
Ezavazarineve.
Yeah, no, totally. Sounds like a disease.
I know. I'm just saying.
But those would have to be my two biggest for sure. I absolutely adore it, and honestly, to its credit, I thought the characters, the facial expressions and stuff like that, weren't the greatest when you got in close.
No,
but the graphics overall for a Wii game, I thought were beautiful.
And they even, I think I've seen it on the Wii. It was even better on the new 3DS. I think it's because. Go ahead.
Not technically impressive, but aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And
absolutely.
on the new 3DS, the screen size is more condensed, so you don't have as much of the low resolution problems on textures. It kind of, obviously smaller screen, smaller pixels, so nothing's going to really pop as much when you look too closely at it. So, man, and the 3D they did for it was absolutely phenomenal. I was so impressed that they actually made the 3D work well in that game.
Definitely. Brian, what about you?
I think my I'll tell you my two biggest. It's going to be weird because it's also going to be in my con, but I really like the battle system. I'm a huge MMO player, and it very much mirrored MMO playing with your character auto-attacking while you're in battle. You don't have to worry about just normal attacking, but you do have to queue up moves. Funny enough about that, though, I didn't like the way it was set up, but I liked the idea of it where it was like, I know this system. I play MMOs all the time. You queue up moves and you auto attack the whole time. So that was a big pro for me that I can just fall right into that and be very sufficient at it. And then I would have to say my second con in I know Isaac pro. I'm sorry, pro music. Like I said, top. It's on my top 3 as far as best music in games. So I would have to say music was my second pro to that. Yeah, very very good and very emotionally driving. And I think Mark agrees with me on everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Isaac, what about you?
I think I think about it is a good use of tropes, which I think is an interesting pro to bring up. But, tropes are not always a bad thing. There can be good action movies, with stereotypical action heroes. There can be good JRPGs with stereotypical JRPG characters. And this is going to be on my, cons too, but they have very tropey, very stereotypical characters, but they're used in such a way where it really plays to the strengths of the tropes of the characters, in my opinion. They work, there's a lot of friendship and brotherhood and stuff like that, but it works together in a way, in my opinion, that I feel like comes together at the end. And I feel like that was a very strong point of the game,
I think it was a very diverse cast.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Mark's over here nodding. I don't.
Yeah, I like to talk about tropes.
If
we
anybody,
talk about that a lot.
I was going to say, if anybody's listening has heard Mark's show, The Fool's Lantern, that's like what they talk about quite a bit.
Yes,
is just tropes in TV
tropes.
Shows and stuff. Yeah,
and
just tropes in general.
Tropes.
It's all about the execution.
Yeah.
It's never a bad or a good thing on its own.
You have at this point, inventing a new trope is very difficult because there is always a trope.
Right, there's a trope for everything.
So it's all about the way you present that trope, and I agree completely.
And like a subverted trope is always a super fun thing to see in a game or a show or whatever. But
Sure.
I digress.
Yep. What else you got for pros?
Interesting villains. They're not really more than one-dimensional, but their backstories of the villains, there are multiple villains during different stages of the plot, and their motivations, especially for some of the latter villains, I found were very interesting. Some of the earlier villains you'll meet are a little bit more one-dimensional, but I felt like the latter villains really shined in how they were integrated into the plot and how they were more than they seemed in terms of their beliefs and their personalities.
You know what? I kind of have to agree with you on that, and I think Brian would too, having played Xenogears.
Yep.
If there's because I'm notorious for saying that. Yeah, it's called Xenoblade, but it's not connected to the others at all, and I've never really even seen it as a Xeno game. But if there's anything that I do see similarities between the two, it is the fact that it's not just one big storyline. There's a lot of smaller ones in there, and there's in this game especially, the villains stand out in each one of those smaller storylines, and Xenogears does the same thing.
Absolutely. The character was there are a few characters that just no, but overall they had but you guys know, if you guys listen to the show, you guys know that JRPGs are not my favorite genre, and for a lot of reasons, because there are too many tropes that are grating that I don't understand how they're enjoyable to people. So that was the only issue with some of the characters, is like, oh god, it's that character, you know what I mean? Like oh god, like here it comes. Yeah. So, but other than that, fleshed out characters is very important in a long game like that. If you don't know who the hell you're walking around with, what does it matter?
Yeah.
If there's no backstory to the people that are following you and you can't get attached to them, why you don't care about them at all? You're like, oh boy, oh shoot.
Definitely. All right, got anything else?
Yeah, last one for me. Biggest thing is the open world design. I love that. Funny story is, after I finished Xenoblade, I went and I tried to play, Final Fantasy 13. I like it to a degree, but the change was so jarring. Going from this massive open world in terms of, for JRPG at least, it was a massive open world. To confines of the 13 had, it was a big contrast for me. I think that drives home the point of just how big I felt the world was. Even though it's probably not technically that big, I felt it made itself feel big. So.
No, I 100% agree. I thought it was absolutely incredibly massive.
Yeah.
That's one of the. I mean, like I said, I would have loved to have had a flying mount and been able to have seen the scope of this giant that I've just been walking on. You know, I mean, I think it's so cool.
I have a slight rebuttal to that in our cons, but we'll get to that in a minute.
All right.
Rebut McIntyre.
I'm going to have to bring out my old
been a
Rebut
while.
McIntyre. Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yep.
All right. Well, then with that, why don't we go ahead and move over to cons? I'll go ahead and start. I honestly don't have too many. My
good.
biggest one is I'm just not crazy about the battle system. When you were talking though, Brian, I think I feel the same way you do.
Yeah.
I like that sense of I like the auto attacking.
Yes.
And I think it has really, really good potential to be able to queue up moves and use them as they're available and stuff like that. I just don't know that the execution was exactly what I was looking for.
It felt good, but then when you actually started using it, you were like, oh man, they could have done this so much better. That's how I was thinking. I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
It's familiar. I can wrap my head around it, but dude, the layout and the way they executed it, I was like, no.
Yeah, I can imagine because me, Brian and JJ have all played 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
In there, you have a 2.5 second global cooldown, and people complain about that all the time. Go to Xenoblade,
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to do between moves besides auto attacking.
Exactly, that was one of the big problems. I'm just sitting there like, okay.
Which I didn't mind when I played, but after I played 14, I went back recently and played through some of Xenoblade again, and I was like, yeah, just kind of sitting here. If you don't have one of the damage characters that has the double attack gem or something, it can be a little hard to feel like you're making any a ton of progress.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
and the auto attacks, especially the early levels, come criminally slow. So
I would also say that just a small gripe that I have is for me at least, I don't think Brian had this issue, but for me it picked up really slowly. I did not really even... If you've played the game, when you get Melia, that's where I started to actually want to keep playing. Before that, it was a slog, and I was like, I'm just bored.
Yeah.
There's just... that may have been my own fault because I was literally picking up every quest and trying to do it as I was going along.
Yeah.
so that's the problem.
Don't do that.
Don't ever do that.
I think if I had just gone with it and gone for the main stuff and come back later on when I was grinding for experience or something, that would have been the way to do it.
Yep.
But I didn't, and I think it ended up hurting me in the long run.
Maybe the reason I enjoyed it so much, and I felt like the story was blazing along, honestly, because what I did was, I finished the game in 55 hours. I did no side quests the first time I played through it. None. So I didn't unlock any additional skill trees. I didn't do any of that. Didn't do side quests because I just finished playing an MMO at the time, and I was done with grinding. And for me, I felt like the plot sped along easily, but there are several down points after big plot spikes, basically, big plot changes. That there are some times you're just like, okay, let's get to the next big cutscene.
Yep.
And but I blazed through that part, so maybe that wasn't big as a problem for me.
Well, real quick, one of my tricks that I do, and I do the same thing in 14, any kind of MMO structure where there's a chock full of side quests, is I RP it. I continue my immersion. If it's an urgent thing, so say, and that's why I think that's why it benefited me in Xenoblade. When I felt like I had to go do the main story quest, like, oh my god, the character's in trouble, go save them, I would just go do that, because I felt like if I sat there for 3 hours doing side quests, my immersion just got shattered, because while the girl's in distress in the mine over here, I'm over here running around fetching coins and stuff for the characters.
It's a big issue with MMOs.
And it is. And so the way I've always countered that is I'm like, okay, is this a story quest where I can move on? Or is this a story quest where I can pause? Okay, no one's in a hurry. We're kind of at a intermission point where I can go do side quests and feel like my character doesn't need to be rushed somewhere. And it helps a little bit, but you're right. It's a very MMO-esque problem.
Definitely. And then one last thing that I had an issue with is when you would switch out party members, having to change all the gems and all the gear and all this stuff. I hated that.
It was terrible. It was really bad execution.
And for me...
Yeah.
I was going to say, for me, it's awful because I am somebody who, when I play JRPGs with party members that I can switch out, I love using everybody. So I will go to a boss with a group, beat the boss, and then I'll be like, all right, I'm going to use this group for the next run. And sometimes
I'm not going to do it.
Like I didn't even want to. I was like, I don't want to have to go through,
Yeah.
So I never used. I pretty much never used Charla at all for the entire game. I almost never used Riki.
It didn't encourage it at all.
No.
Yeah, I use the exact same party from this is very light spoilers from the time you get Dunban in the game. I used Shulk, Ryan, Dunban the entire rest of the game except for 1 point in the final boss battle. Those are the 2 points that I used another party, but I used Shulk, Dunban, and Ryan the whole time. So that was never an issue for me. But I can understand why it's a painful process to change gear.
Same issue Suikoden, the two Suikoden games had. Didn't really foster a lot of changing out your characters because you had to go through that stupid inventory system.
And the inventory system, I guess that's a con we can all agree on. The inventory system is pretty poor.
100%. Yep, that was one of my cons.
It can be very, very grating to use it, especially for gear comparison.
Yeah.
So
that's the big ones for me. Brian?
Okay, I'm going to rebut you on the real quick. You guys pretty much saying all my cons. I have two real quick. Number one, I'm going to rebuttal you on the size of the world. First of all, I feel like Final Fantasy 13, that world, and Xenoblade Chronicles should have been reversed in some ways. When you make a world and let me explain why. When you make a world that big, you have to make it feel not barren, right?
I get you.
And so I love the zones. Don't get me wrong. I love the scope. The problem is the hardware didn't allow them to make the world feel lived in. It felt extremely empty. And there were some mobs here and there, but man, you run for like 40 miles and you're just like, snow.
And there's
snow,
nothing. Yeah,
snow,
no, you're right.
Snow,
Absolutely.
Snow. And you're like, okay, this world feels really not lived in, and it breaks that sense of scope. You're just like, this is a giant empty shell, and hardware like Final Fantasy 13 came out on. That's what it fought. That's why it was so funny that Final Fantasy 13 was Corridor City, because that's what you want to do. You want to make the scope, it's scope plus details of that scope that are very, very important. I just got done playing a game that showcased that to a T in The Witcher 3, where the scope was massively off the charts, and it was also extremely detailed in what it put in the world. So the world felt big and felt extremely alive, which I didn't feel in Xenoblade.
The thing I could use maybe to rebut that a little bit is the story kind of makes it where it makes sense when the world's not lived in, honestly, and that helps a little bit. There are sections of the world where there's no sentient being that's been there for supposedly thousands of years, So
I mean, I get that, but I'm talking about
that can help a little bit. But I honestly, first time I went through, I didn't notice, how empty it was. When I replayed it recently, I was like, good lord, there's these large, especially in Valak Mountain, which is one of my least favorite zones.
And I'm always going to encourage
snow.
always going to encourage big zones. I'm just saying that it just needs to feel more detailed when you do a big zone, or else you're going to be running around into a barren wasteland and feel very okay. I
would have liked more smaller settlements or something.
That's what I'm saying. Condense it a little bit and feel like the world is a little bit more lived in and more vibrant in some areas. Obviously, if you have a barren desert, that's fine, but the whole place felt like that.
And a faster walking speed probably would have helped with that.
Yes, no joke. That would have been another great thing for flying mounts.
And then my last con, and of course, you all know my classic JRPG con is please don't go JRPG at the end. I'm never going to give you a pass on that. This one kind of went full JRPG, but
we're going to just to kind of bring that up a little bit after the show is over. Stay tuned. After the credits, we are actually going to do a bit of a spoiler cast. Mm-hmm. That way, if you haven't played the game, you don't need to listen to that. We're not going to just throw it in your face.
Please don't ruin yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to that if you haven't played the game.
Absolutely agreed, 100%. But if you have played the game and you want to kind of just hear us talk about it, we're going to be going in a little bit more in depth into the story and some of the things that happen. Yep. So we'll address that at that point for sure, because the ending was.
The ending was, oh god, that is literally I actually said that out loud, but I've done that with many JRPGs where I literally physically say, not again. It happened with 13-2 as well. No, but hey, it's me. I'm JRPG anti guy.
All right, Isaac, cons.
One I just thought about, and it's a really big con in my opinion. there's a section in the game that they don't really tell you about. Like, there's a cutoff point. There's basically 2 lockout points in the game. There's one point where a giant portion of the available land is cut off for the rest of the game, and it's not really told before the story happens. And I think for completionists or for people that just want to, keep parts of the world open, it made a lot of sense in the story, but it really hurt, if you didn't get everything from there.
Yeah.
And
that happened to me. Yep.
And it's unfortunate, but I mean, the game does give you some sort of warning. It tells you which quests are timed and they'll go away eventually. But still, that's a big blow in my opinion to the game's strength. But another problem I have, honestly, it's the graphics. I mean, the game renders at 640 by 480. Yeah. To give perspective on that, I love the aesthetics of the graphics. They're pretty, but those character faces,
it's bad.
when eyes are textures, that's when you know it's bad.
Yes, absolutely.
And I played this game honestly. I played this game back when I only had a Wii, so I didn't have a fancy gaming computer. I didn't have a PS3 or an Xbox 360. I only had a Wii, so I wasn't terribly disappointed by the way the graphics looked. Come back to it today though, even upscaled on the Wii U, it still looks pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at games what the hardware's capable of, with The Last Story, the faces looked a lot better. It was obviously a much smaller scale game, but it shows you what the hardware is capable of in terms of facial models. You look at, I hate the game, but look at Metroid Other M. At least it's a kind of a pretty game,
right.
by Wii standards. And I knew they had to do that so everything would render fine in the open world, but I felt like that. I didn't really care for that. So, but it's not their fault. They put it on the Wii, and I completely understand that.
I mean, I think they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
So I can't think of any other Wii games that look, as aesthetically pleasing as this one. So.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, 2 more cons. One's a pro con. All right. Here's the pro con.
The old Frozen North Proken.
The character Ricky. All right. We're not going to go into a detailed explanation about him, but he's the stereotypical, the tropey, animal character, basically.
He's the Jar Jar Binks.
He's the one character in every JRPG they have to have. We need this is what they do in a boardroom. They sit around and go, we need a really annoying character.
That's word for word. That's what they do.
Literally what they do.
Absolutely.
And then somebody goes, let's make a really annoying character who's squeaky.
And that describes Ricky, to be honest. Ricky is, in my opinion, he's more annoying than he is good, but he had some really good scenes, during the last half of the game, I felt, that kind of added to it, took away some of the silliness, added a little bit of character depth. He's a very silly character. He's very funny in some ways, but he can also grate on your nerves after a while, especially during his introduction. But he's a funny character, but he can really overstay his welcome sometimes.
He's also got a couple of heartwarming moments, though, to his credit.
Yeah.
They all do, but I'm telling you, man.
I agree. I never used him. Yeah. I just, nope.
He's a great character, though. He's one of the most, honestly, overpowered characters in the game because he uses dots, damage over time.
Yeah.
With most of his attacks, and is one of, the 2 characters that can max out HP at the end of the game.
Well, dang, man, I should have spent 2 hours to change my equipment and
put JJ, Ricky Dicky.
Yeah, it's smart of you, JJ, though, not to use Charla.
That's literally how he talked, Mark.
I wasn't a big fan of her. I think I used
I loved Charla.
Dunban and Shulk, obviously, and Melia for the most part.
I love Charla. In fact, I still have, in my dreams, I still hear, heal bullet! Heal bullet!
No.
Statistically, analytically, she's the worst character in the game, honestly.
And I used her for almost until I got Dunban. I used her literally the entire game. She was one of my staple characters.
Yeah,
I beat it.
Probably because you just didn't want to change her gear out.
I know I didn't. I was just I got her early on the game, and I was just like, well, it's just geared out. And heal bullet.
Oh man!
Yeah,
all right.
The problem is, Xenoblade's not really designed about having a healer, but I digress about that.
I learned that late.
Final thing is more of a personal preference. I hated some of the armor designs in this game. Number one, that there's no, like in Final Fantasy XIV, a glamour system, where you can change what your character looks like they're wearing compared to what the armor looks like. Because some of the armor designs, especially for the last character that you get, I'm not going to spoil that, last character that you get, and for Charla, are really like some of the dumbest looking outfits I've ever seen. And Ryan's Ultimate Armor, for example, is like horrible in terms of aesthetics. And there are some very cool outfits, but it's mostly the default outfit the characters came with. So I thought like there should have just been a little option to be like, do you want to use the way the character looked like at the beginning of the game or when you first got them as, in cutscenes, or do you want to use the way the armor looks? Because some of the armor designs are just plain awful.
I can't think of too many single player games though off the top of my head that actually do let you.
I love that.
Make your character look like the way you want it to look. Mm-hmm. You're pretty much just kind of at the mercy of whatever's in the game.
Yeah, whatever's there.
It's coming in Xenoblade Chronicles X. But it's a new game plus feature only. So
yeah, but I'm more excited for the mechs that you get to actually. Well, you get to design them and have your own garage and all that. I mean,
that's as they say around town, baller status.
If anybody shoot us an email, frozennorthpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know your Wii U sign-on name because I will play with people. I know Isaac and I already talked about we're going to be playing together. So
yeah, totally.
Phrasing. That's not. I wasn't phrasing. You got me. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. So I mean, we'll move past the cons, and we'll go into the last part of the review, and that's do we recommend it? I think it's pretty clear. If you have a Wii, you should be playing this game, unless you don't have a Wii or you don't want to spend the $80.
Right.
Yeah.
The new Nintendo 3DS. If you have that, this is the perfect time to play it.
Absolutely.
So
I think this will really drive it home. If you don't have a Wii, you don't have a Wii U, you don't have a 3DS, and this is the only time I'll ever tell anybody this. I hate emulators, and I hate using ISOs from off the internet. This is the only game I will ever tell you. If you can't buy it, you don't want to buy it, whatever. Just play it on an emulator. Play it on Dolphin. Download it. I don't care. Find a way to play it. It's a great game.
Frozen North does not condone emulation of any kind.
No opinions here are reflected
necessarily reflected by.
To be honest, I hate emulators. I'm just saying, if you can't afford it or whatever, you cannot play it for some reason. I don't care. Find a way to play it, and that's it. I recommend it wholeheartedly. So.
It is. It's a fantastic game. I've said it 1,000 times over. It's the best game on the Wii in my opinion.
Oh yeah, easily.
I mean, and that there's not much in the way of JRPGs on the Wii.
No,
but this
the last
game
story is
the last story is great too.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Not quite on Xenoblade's level in my opinion.
No, it's a lot shorter too.
Yeah,
I played the last story after Xenoblade, and I didn't feel like the plot was quite as good, but. Definitely it's pretty much if you want a JRPG on the Wii, it's the last story in Xenoblade and kind of maybe sort of Pandora's Tower. So, but I recommend wholeheartedly.
Well, as the formal authority on JRPGs, and this is because I really get annoyed by them. I can say that in general, this is probably one of the better JRPGs out there. Period. So. If you are a JRPG fan and you haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles, then I don't like you.
That's
I
mean.
Well, it's not mean.
So you don't like Mark?
Exactly.
Oh.
Well, wait, he doesn't really like game. Like I said, if you like JRPGs,
that's true.
I said if you like JRPGs and you haven't played it,
is that your rebuttal, Mark? Is well,
then you backed him up and I gave up.
My my final point about it is this. I played this game 2 years ago, 2013. I have not found a game I found a JRPG or an RPG in general besides Final Fantasy 14 since then that I've liked as much as this game. So to be one of the first JRPGs I ever played, it was honestly pretty bad to play it first because it threw me off from JRPGs. In my opinion, that's how good it is. That's how above the rest of JRPGs it is.
Isaac got Final Fantasy 7'd.
I'm
using that as a verb now. Yeah, he got
true,
Final Fantasy 7 hard.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, like we said, we're gonna go ahead and just go back to the three of us here and talk a little bit more. But after that, we're gonna do the credits and stay tuned to the show after the credits because we are going to. And when I say credits, I just mean ending theme because we don't really have credits.
As soon as JJ says keep on gaming, stick around. We're gonna keep on talking.
Right. Exactly. So, without any further ado, let's kick it back over to us.
Us. Okay.
And we're back with just the three of us. Man, Xenoblade.
I mean,
such
seriously.
a good game.
Yeah, I recommend it highly. Mark
Definitely
recommends it highly.
And like we mentioned after the show, stick around because we got a spoiler cast. Really, really good. Well, stick around if you haven't played the game.
Yeah.
Or if you
Whoa,
have
whoa,
played
whoa!
Stick around if you have played the game.
Or if you just really want to hear the spoilers, which whatever. I'm not going to tell you not to listen to the spoilers.
I'm going to tell you not to listen to it.
Well, here's the
Don't
thing.
listen to it.
Listen to it at your own peril risk.
Your own discretion.
Yes.
Listen to it at your own discretion.
sure you just don't like it.
Yeah, it's a great game. Go check it out, and thank you, Isaac, for taking the time out to talk to us. Okay, we're gonna do. I mean, no top 5 this week again, just because we were running so long. But we are gonna do a quick news segment, and then we'll end the show, sort of, and then get into that.
We'll have an after party.
But next episode, I promise, we're gonna be we got a top 5 lined up. We're gonna be doing top 5. What the heck was it?
Replayable games.
Top 5 games with replay value. That's right.
And we're going to discuss what makes games replayable and what makes games doesn't.
True enough.
What makes games
doesn't.
This gonna make a good show.
What makes games doesn't?
This much thing the.
I like to talk about the what games doesn't.
Oh, it's late.
Indeed, it is. Brian, hit us up with some news.
Mark, I need some futuristic Morse code sounds, please. Dun, 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 dun. That's probably copyright. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, guys, we got some news. We got some news today. I'm going to keep this pretty brisk because we are going to move right through this. First bit of news: Miyamoto from Nintendo basically addressed the delaying of Star Fox until 2016. I'm going to read that for you real quick. Miyamoto says that I made a big decision last week. We have been developing Star Fox Zero for the Wii U with the aim of releasing it this year. Although we felt that the development had been progressing well, we now believe that we will need a little more time to work on areas such as the unprecedented discovery that we want players to experience in the game by using 2 screens, and further polish the level of design and perfecting the tone of the cutscenes. While we have already reached the stage where it would be technically possible to release the title in time for the year-end holiday season, we want to polish the game a bit more so that players will be able to more smoothly grasp the new style of play that we are proposing.
So it doesn't look like Star Fox 64?
This is the most vague letter to people looking forward to launch of the game in the holiday season. I am very sorry. Star Fox Zero is going to bring new gameplay and experiences that take it far beyond the framework established by Star Fox 64. All the members of the development team are doing our best so that the final product will not betray our expectations, and the game will not be delayed for a very long time. We're aiming for the game in Q1 of 2016. Please stay tuned for further announcements.
What? He's talking like he was called to a congressional hearing or something. The way to say it's not done.
I know it's oh god, Nintendo just baffles my mind. I kind of think that they're going to try to push this back enough to get it with the NX. They got to have. I think they're trying to get titles for the NX, and so this is a good way to like
classic Twilight Princess.
Knock them back, so that they have a big. They're still.
I'd be frustrated.
They're still going to release it for the Wii U, people, but I think they're trying to. I don't. This could be. This is completely my take on it. But why that? What did he say there that made any kind of contextual sense?
He wants to make it better.
It's not good. We're going to make it better. It's going to be great. Okay.
Unprecedented gameplay discovery.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the most corporate jargony. Yeah. We're going to really capture its synergy, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Ugh.
So, we'll see. Nintendo continues to be Nintendo. Persona 5, for you Persona fans, has also been delayed. At the Tokyo Game Show, a trailer of the upcoming Persona 5 game had shown that the game will be released in summer 2016, so they didn't really actually tell anybody it was going to be delayed, but they put summer 2016 on there, and I think people were a little upset. This is no... and then they discovered that it's actually not a mistake, and then when they pressed the makers of Persona 5 about it, yeah, it got delayed. But that's a really weird way of... Oops, yeah, it's delayed. Sorry about that. Here's the video. And then right up Mark's alley, PlayStation VR.
Yes.
So it's being said that it's going to be priced like, and this is in quotes, new gaming platform. vague. According to SCE CEO Andrew House, PlayStation VR will be priced as a, quote, new gaming platform, unquote, saying that the VR rewrites the rule book on how you can create games.
$500.
It's probably going to range between $300 and $500.
Here's what's weird about that. Didn't
Yeah.
they say, like, when they first announced it, they were going to try and price it like like an add-on, like a peripheral?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this means. Like,
I'd
are
pay
they
$300 though? I
right?
would.
And that's kind of, he didn't. Obviously, that's a very vague statement. A new gaming platform is like a very broad range. So I'm guessing it's going to be on the lower end of the 300 to 500 range. But I mean,
Nah. It's gonna be 500.
yeah. I think that's Mark might be right. That might be why he's coming out and getting ahead of it and saying like, "Hey guys, this is going to be a little expensive."
I think Oculus is gonna be more.
Wow.
I mean, you're probably right. I would imagine so.
The Oculus guys have been saying, "Oh, it's gonna be
Yep.
for the cost of an Oculus and a compatible gaming rig, you'll be spending $1,500."
Right.
So I'm guessing $1,000 rig and a $500 headset or something
Yeah.
around
Probably
there.
right.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a brand new thing, but damn, it's going to be tough to get people into VR if they're not going to,
Clearly, no one wants to say the price. That tells me a lot.
Yes, it's very vague statements like, "Oh well, there's a lot of technology involved."
It's gonna be some vague platitude
Yeah.
about it's the price of a new
Yeah,
gaming platform.
which that's
Right.
that's so broad. It could be the 3DS is a gaming platform.
Yep.
Yeah, but so anyway, that's a little bit of news on that. I still think that maybe companies are starting to, when they're now getting closer to the reality of VR, starting to realize cost is a little bit higher than they had anticipated. So,
I'll pay it.
Well, yeah. And then the last bit of news for you Kingdom Hearts fans, I know I'm one of them. Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue is revealed, so we all have 2.5 and been playing through that. What this includes is it is going to include the HD remaster of Dream Drop Distance. This is the one that came out for the 3DS. You might be saying, "Well, Brian, what else is in the game? There's no more."
Isn't that an oxymoron? Final chapter prologue?
It's well, what was the name of
Japan.
Thank you. I was going to say, what was the name of the
Bump of chicken.
Bump of chicken. Kingdom Hearts 2.8
Final chapter prologue.
Final chapter.
Fight win.
Fight win. It's going to include Dream Drop Distance, and which is the bridge up to Kingdom Hearts 3. However, it is also going to include two. It's going to include two games that I don't think Americans got to see very much of, and that includes Kingdom Hearts X back cover. That's another interesting title. And Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep. It's a fragmentary passage. The former, which is Kingdom Hearts X back cover, is an HD movie, so it's not a game, it's a movie. And it's going to connect the earlier parts of the series' history, which Kingdom Hearts Unchained X Chi details, and reveals more on the foretellers, which are a big, yeah.
As someone who's not on the Kingdom Hearts train, this is not making me interested at all.
The foretellers are very like mysterious band of miscreants. Anyway, the latter of the two games, which is the Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, it's going to take place during, obviously, the Birth by Sleep's timeline or storyline, and it's told from Aqua's perspective only. So you're going to get 3 games in there. Well, 1 movie, 2 games, but the HD, I think the selling point is HD Dream Drop Distance. So have at it.
Indeed.
Final Chapter Prologue. It makes sense, Final Chapter Prologue, because it's the final chapter before Kingdom Hearts 3.
They've been really trying not to make Kingdom Hearts 3 for a long time.
We know it exists. They showed
production
gameplay footage.
It's in production, allegedly.
We'll see.
Anyway, that's your news for this week. I am your news host, Brian, the greatness of...
Yes.
Brian.
Final chapter prologue.
Yeah.
Still stuck on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Jump back.
Backdoor, was that what one of them was called?
I have no idea what you're
Backdoor
talking
Sally.
about. That's not appropriate. All right. Okay. Well, I mean, thank you very much for listening. And as we said before, we got a spoiler cast after the ending theme song. I kept saying after the credits. I don't know, because we don't really have credits.
We can make credits.
We could. There is one thing, and it's Mark saying, our theme song is... And I should have it memorized right now because I have put it in the episode every single time. But
you got to attribute those things.
I did. Hey, it's in there. It's in there. It's in there. So if you have played Xenoblade, again, I encourage you to listen because we're going to kind of break it down and talk about it. And Isaac, like I said, Isaac's got a lot of great insight into the game, and he's gonna really, really go in deep with it. Yeah. And Brian is gonna rip it a new one.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna give it the JRPG treatment.
It's pretty good. At least I'm gonna predict that it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because
I'm gonna predict
definitely
that we
didn't record it a little bit ago.
Correct.
With that, this is the Frozen North signing off for episode number 71. Thank you so much for listening, and if you, like I said, keep on listening if you have played the game. If you haven't, this is a good stopping point. You guys got anything else?
Nope. I'm going to go home and play Final Fantasy 14. Yay!
I gotta say my name's Mark, because later I say my name's still Mark.
I was going to say...
Thanks, Mark.
You ruined it.
You ruined it.
Well, I didn't ruin it for myself. I'm delighted.
My name is JJ.
My name is Mark.
Now it makes more sense.
It's late!
Now it makes more sense because you'll say it
and
3
here,
times.
I'm going to ruin it even more. And his name is still Mark.
True enough.
Oh, man.
True enough.
Oh.
I'm Brian, guys. I'm Brian, though, if you didn't know. If you didn't know me, I'm Brian.
And, as always, keep on gaming.
Our theme song was made available through the Creative Commons Attribution license by Ziphoid. The song title is Radical Fanfare.
All right, and we're back for a Xenoblade Chronicles spoiler cast.
Yep.
Gonna be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. I'm going to talk a lot.
I can't wait to hear some of this stuff here.
Right.
So we obviously you heard the review earlier on in the show. I want to reiterate, if you have not played the game, I strongly suggest that you stop right now.
Yeah. Because
we are going to talk about the ending and a lot of the stuff that happens along the way, and there's some really, really crazy spoilers that it's really, really good to get that organically by playing through the game.
If you ever plan on playing it, I'd say step out. If you don't ever plan on playing it and you just want to hear funny stuff and a story, then stick around. Yeah, correct, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're the
Stop
Mark crowd
right now. This is your turning around point. If you don't want to spoil it, go back, please. I beg you.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Okay,
All right, let's do it.
So, is there anything that we really need to bring up as far as like beyond what Isaac had said as far as the summary of the story, like right off the bat, to just kind of like lay a foundation for what we're going to talk about?
I mean,
the big issues, maybe cover them, like start off with the beginning, and then the big, huge plot points, cover them, and see what our reactions were. So
yeah, go if you want to kind of just guide us through that, and then
sure.
we'll go from there. Yeah, go for it.
Yes, you start off right. You have the Minato, and it's kind of filler, normal story, right? And then you get to the first battle, the battle in Colony 9, and then Fior dies. I was just like, that's like a game is just dropping the mic right there, in my opinion. It's not unprecedented to have major characters killed off. Final Fantasy VII did it. Other games have done it. But that early in the game, when there's been enough time for emotional attachment to Fior as a character, just to have it wiped out that quickly, and you maybe think she might come back, but you're not sure, and it just happens that quickly. I thought that was like, wow, like the guts it takes to build up a character and then just drop it all and use that as a motivation. I thought that was a great idea.
And Shulk's reaction to it.
That was probably that was probably one of the stronger scenes in the game, in my opinion.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I knew I was playing a JRPG, so I here's the rule about JRPGs, and this is what differentiated the scene with Fiora versus the scene with Ares. If you don't see them actually die, they're not dead.
Yeah, I got you.
You literally saw a sword go through Ares, so you're like, oh, cool, she's dead. You didn't really see Fiora die. It was definitely heavily implied, but I was like, I smirked. I was like, we'll see her again.
And Dunman's little speech after the battle, I thought was pretty good. A little tropey, a little cliche, but I thought it really drove home the point that real characters suffering real problems.
Honestly, though, it was so long before you saw her again, though, that I started to be like,
question
maybe not.
And that scene,
yeah.
And that scene was such a powerful scene. It really was. That's probably the best scene as far as like emotional and like cinematic. You're like, oh god, ooh, boy, this is kind of a dark story. Holy crap!
And actually, now that I think about it, why don't we take one quick step back? Isaac, why don't you explain a little bit, since the game revolves around it so heavily? What is the Monado exactly?
Do you want me to fully spoil it?
It's a spoiler cast.
Or do you want me to wait till later so I can fully explain what the Monado exactly is?
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually, but just kind of like a rough overview real quick.
All right, general idea is it's a sword that is the only sword that's able to kill like Mechon, right? It can't kill people. It can't actually hurt anything with Bionis Ether in it. But it's capable of completely destroying Mechon, and it can't kill face Mechon for a reason that we'll find out later in the spoiler cast. But I thought it's a MacGuffin at first, right? The Monado is really it's just a means to an end, but it almost develops it quite literally develops its own character later on. So, and I think that, and generally it's just a sword that can kill things at the beginning, and it becomes much more later.
Right off the bat, you see Dunban wielding it in the very first opening scene, and he's hurt by it like it's taking his power, and you're like, okay, so this sword is something we're not quite. This is something
not just anybody can wield it.
Yeah, kind of beyond. Yeah. He's wielding it well, but it takes a toll on him, and as you see in the very first scene, he's battling, then he gets betrayed, and he's hurt. The sword kind of sucked his arm off. I mean, not off, but it's like sucked. It's like all its life out of his arm. So
what a bunch of jokers!
What a bunch of jokers!
Goodness.
But yeah, that first scene really drives home the power, like this arcane power that's behind the Monado.
Right.
Well, and before Shulk actually picks it up, because he's the one that you're playing as for the most part. He uses it, but before he uses it, it's generally thought of by everybody that Dunban's the only one that can wield it, because he's the only one able to handle it.
Yep.
So, and we'll get into that whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, we will.
So, but I mean, as far as Fiora goes, yeah, when she died, I think that was. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it was one of my favorite scenes in the game, just because it actually made me feel like, oh wow.
Yep.
And it's like one of the 2 or 3 places in the game, like the game got T rating, right? It's one of the 3 places or something they put blood in, and it really applied in that scene. It really helped drive the point home that and that was something that made me think originally when I played it that she's dead or whatever.
Definitely.
And honestly, there's some indications like on the back reversible cover of the US release, she's standing with the rest of the cast, and so you're thinking that's what kind of threw me off a little bit. And I was like, oh, is she really dead? She's standing with the rest of the cast here, But also in that picture they had Dunban with blonde hair, so I was like, well,
yeah, it could be anything.
Could be anything.
It could be anything, and maybe it's just for aesthetic reasons, but man, it blew my mind, honestly.
Well, all right, what's the next major plot point?
So like our heroes continue on, go Colony 6 and all that stuff. Fight some few face mech on, keep continuing on, and then I think, if I remember correctly, the next major thing is you meet Melia and Ricky in Machna Woods, right? Mm-hmm. And you go on from there to Alchemoth, where you learn there's like some political intrigue behind the scenes with Larithia and the Emperor. Like she's one of the Emperor's like one of the people in charge of the government, right?
Right.
And there's some behind the scenes stuff going on with her, and Alvis is somehow involved. You meet Alvis, the character who's very important later on, but right now he just seems like
Alvis is kind of out of nowhere, but yeah, he's very, very, very plot centric. Yeah.
Yep. You meet him back in Machna Woods actually, but he continues on, like he meets up with you, and you go to Alchemoth, and from Alchemoth, the most important scene there is Prison Island.
Island,
which is again, a lot of it's heavily alluded to. What's going to happen at Prison Island. it's all kind of alphabet soup at the beginning when you don't really know the terms or what's going to happen. But as you keep getting closer to Prison Island and the visions she'll have and keep reoccurring, you kind of keep thinking, to yourself that, wow, something big's going to happen in Prison Island. And when the Mechon attack and you undo all the seals and go up there, it's some really powerful stuff that happens there, including the reveal that Fiora's not actually dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean...
Well, who do we meet up there? That's the big...
Yeah.
We actually meet... what's his name? Gosh.
Zanza,
who he is the real Monado wielder, according to him. And he's like, hey, Shulk, I'm going to unlock your Monado for you. And you're like, well,
yeah, he acts like he's your buddy.
No, but it's so weird. The way they do the scene, I'll actually give him credit, because I was like, I don't know if they meant to portray this, but I was like, a giant blue man is who is... Hold on, this is my mind. I go, a giant blue man who is, mind you, completely locked up in like an epic, huge chain, prison cell, is trying to help me. I was like, what are you up to, Zanza? But he really was like, I'm going to unlock the Monado, because you have trouble facing the face Mechon. For some reason, their armor is repelling the Monado, and Zanza explains that it's because you don't really you're not really the true wielder of the Monado. I am. He goes, but I'm going to unlock it for you, so that you can actually not only like hurt the face Mechon, but destroy them, because I know they were a pain in your butt, because I remember those fights where you're just like bouncing off of them and you're like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
So
those fights were a pain until you unlock the true potential of the Monado, right?
Yeah.
But meeting Zanza for the first time was like, wow, I think you'd seen visions of him before, and I was like, who is this dude? Who's this dude supposed to be? You meet him, you find out I think he claims to be the creator of the Monado. Something like that.
Not the creator. I think he's the original wielder of the Monado. That's what he's...
Wielder, something like that. And it's very suspicious, like you said. And the little scene afterwards where he talks to Alvis, he just throws all sorts of questions in the air.
Exactly.
It's like... And the fact that he almost allows himself to be killed by Metalface. When Metalface throws the Ether Spear and kills...
And that little scene, and it comes full circle, but you were like, why is he wanting to die? And then you realize, and then later, we'll get into that later, and you're like, oh my God.
It just kept... Seems like that answered a few questions. Is Fiora still alive? What's up with Monado not being able to kill Face Mechon?
Is Fiora back at that point? I thought it was way later.
No, it's way later.
No,
yeah,
it's right there.
Wait, are you sure?
No, I think you get her back when you go to the Mechon City.
Oh, she's not back yet. But this is the first time
you see her in the scene.
Yeah,
you see her in the scene.
Oh, that's right.
With what's her butt, and then she's putting her into her mech.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, and during that scene, right. She goes flying off, like the armor gets ripped away, whatever, and you see her head there, sitting in there.
Yep.
And she flies away, and then Shulk goes running, screaming after her, right?
Yep.
So, because she didn't remember who he was.
Right.
That's what I meant. Like, no, you don't get her in your party till way later.
Yep.
But
that's right.
She is a very important plot character there, and it kind of is a little mind-blowing, I thought, for me at least. Probably not that big of a deal for other players, but I thought it was kind of interesting. But, when she came back, I was like, well, she's not dead, but she's obviously not really the same person. And who's Maineth? They keep calling her Maineth. It's like,
Yeah.
But
isn't Maineth occupying her little crystal? Like,
that's complicated. That's later.
Okay. I know. I'm just trying to, like I said,
Maineth is there's crystals, there's souls. It gets complicated.
JRPGs really make my eyes cross when I try to follow their so-called coherent plot lines, where I'm like, wait, you just
it's quite simple, Brian.
Let me explain my frustration with JRPG. Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
It's all coherent if you just remember it's a video game.
No, but I mean, like, you're like, I'm following
real.
Here's JRPG.
No, I'm saying 5D space.
No.
Every JRPG is part of the Star Ocean universe. Boy. Then everything makes sense if you just agree with that.
It's like I'm following this story thread on a JRPG, and then, yes, pun intended, somebody takes a katana and just slices it in half. And I'm like, wait, no, where am I?
But it's one of those cliched scenes where you're not sure if it's sliced in half yet, and you have to like wait and pause and see if it actually. Yeah.
But we all digress here. This is we're on kind of a rapid trail there. That scene I liked a lot. Not as powerful as the Fiora getting killed scene or whatever, but Answered
Killed
some
in quotes.
questions. Yeah, I answered some questions. Finally got to see how Metalface, paid for some of his crimes or whatever. But just a little.
Don't you find out who Metalface was at that point?
Johnny Man mentioned something about he's like those moves, those claws, whatever. It's like the way he phrases it.
Yeah,
but
I thought that was predictable, to be honest with you.
I know I did too.
Yeah,
I was like, this is totally Mumkar,
Yeah, but I don't remember when they revealed it exactly. But yeah, he was. Can I just say this? That he was a weird character.
Oh yeah,
Like
I agree.
Well, even think about the end when he's just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the Team Rocket of the game.
But why? Here's the thing about his character. Here's what the thing about his character that I always like to ask myself. But why? Like, why was he? What was his motivation? He had no motivation at all.
No, I agree. I never understood.
In
Like,
the beginning,
why are you mad?
his motivation was, I want to be the hero. I'm going to leave Dunbad and die, and I'm going to go live the hero in Colony 9, right?
See, I never got that from him.
No, but I'm talking about that was his fake motivation. Well, that was
captured. He got captured by the Mechon, and then he's scheming. So I guess he decided to make it the best for himself.
I'm talking about his overall arc motivation, where he was actually with Zanza back in the day. He's like, I'm Zanza's first lieutenant. Okay,
that's not Mumkar.
That's Dixon.
That's
not
Dixon.
Mumkar.
I'm sorry, that's Dixon. I forgot about that. Yep, you're right.
And Mumkar's just the dude who's just
Mumkar's just
angry.
the
I'm talking about Dixon. I didn't know what I had no idea what he was about. Like,
Yeah,
He's kind of on both sides.
but what was his motivation? He had
certain points.
he had, how most characters have motivation. He had nothing. There was nothing. He was just kind of like, whatever.
we're talking about Dixon, right?
Yes, yeah, that's
he's
what
talking
that's
about
what I thought I was talking about. But
And we'll get into a little bit later. Dixon's whole arc, I liked it. I know it's a little bit like, he's a little bit apathetic and,
Right.
nihilist about everything. But I kind of liked how his character sort of developed. It didn't make a lot of sense if you look at the earlier parts of the game through the lens of the latter parts of the game. But, I thought I liked Dixon's character. We'll get more into him later.
Yep.
But Mumkar, dude with the claws at the beginning, his motivation, in my opinion, was at the beginning, he seemed like he wanted to be a hero.
Yeah, you're right.
And he got, flattened or whatever by the Mechon, and he came back in and he just decided to make the best out of it, is kind of what I got from that.
He just he was with his buddies, and it seemed like the game set it up to where they had been through a lot together, and they're old war heroes, and he's just out of nowhere like this angry dude who doesn't
jealousy.
like his friends.
I think jealousy was his motivation. He was always wanting the power.
It just didn't hit me that hard.
You're right.
So I don't know,
yeah.
but it was predictable. About the whole
The first time I
Metalface
heard
thing.
his voice, I'm like, they didn't even modulate his voice or anything.
Not very much. No, yeah.
It's like, oh, that's Mumkar just speaking through like a giant microphone.
All right, so what happens next?
Okay, so they go through, pretty sure, let's see, Prison Island, and then we go down the Violinist, right? Chasing after Fiora. And we go to past Valak Mountain, or through Valak Mountain.
We're trying to get to the sword, because that's where the base is.
Where the base where they, Fiora is. Shulk's confused. He doesn't know what's going to happen next. So we track back down through, go to fly to Valak Mountain. And Valak Mountain is honestly one of my least favorite parts of the game, to be honest. It's a very bare area, right?
Is that the big wasteland, deserty looking area?
It's the big mountain.
Yeah.
It's a giant mountain.
Yeah, I didn't like that very much either.
How those parts where it's like you're only 200 meters away, and you have to jump down. All this stuff, and if you jump, you die. So you have to kind of go around and go down to descend the mountain. But when you get down there, you fight Metalface, and it's like, oh, it's Metalface's Moomcard. And you're like, yeah, we learned that pretty much when you first introduced Metalface.
We got it, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
And Fiora, or Mayneth, let's just say Mayneth gets there, and who is Fiora? We'll explain that later. Comes down there and tries to explain things, and then Moomcard tries to kill her, and then tries to almost kills her. And then you fight Moomcard, and the Bionis starts to move, and then out of nowhere comes this gigantic golden Mechon, and he says, I'm Ego, I'm the boss, see you later, takes everybody and leaves.
To people that are listening, if you're wondering why we keep saying we'll get to that later, it's because this game literally does not tell you very much of anything until the end.
Yeah, you have no idea. It's like, he literally shows up, and he's Ego. He's a giant mech called Yaldabaoth, right? He shows up, he says, yo, I'm Ego, I'm the man, I'm the best Mechon there is. I have the best Mechon there is.
Yep.
I'm
Quoted
gone,
word for
see you
word.
later.
It's that. It's the very typical JRPG way of going. It's the whole bait and switch with, and it's
You
every
ain't ready for
JRPG.
this.
Oh, that's the main bad guy, and then nope, this is the main bad guy.
This is
It
the
happens
dude.
in everyone, and he just pops out of nowhere and goes, "I'm Eggle. Hi, I'm the most powerful bad guy." Wow, wow, wow,
And-
But this
the
is
way
only
he
my
actually-
first form.
Correct.
Yeah, kind of. And the way the scale, in my opinion, presented him very well. He's a lot bigger than anything you've seen up to that point. And and the mech he's in is kind of cool looking. I'm like, wow, that's a very. I felt like he was kind of an intimidating villain at that point in the game. And I was like, wow. And so when he says "ciao" and he flies off, I was just like, on to Sword Valley it is. And you finally, thank the Lord, finish Valak Mountain, which is a really terrible area. I'm sorry. It's my least favorite area in the game. You go to Sword Valley, and stuff happens there, and then you begin the process of finding out crap, pretty much, is what happens.
Oh, Sword Valley is the place I'm thinking of. That's all deserty and stuff.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where all the bases are.
That's the place I hated. Ugh.
Why did you hate Sword Valley? The music was great.
Yeah, but it's just such a barren, like, and there's so many parts where like they had those little bases that you could go in and kill everything as part of the quests, and that's another one of those instances where it would, if you didn't do it,
Yep.
it would lock you out of it.
So up to this point where Isaac's talking about is our characters' motivations are we have to stop because the Mechons are terrorizing colonies over on the Bionis.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do as characters is at this point in the motivation we see Eggle, we kind of know Shulk obviously wants to save Fiora now that he knows she's alive. But the big plot driver right now is that the characters want to get over to Sword Valley and go to the main, like where all the Mechon are filing in, because the sword is attached to the Mechonis sword of the big Titan is attached to the Bionis' body, and that's where all the Mechon are filing over into the Bionis. And I remember through most of the game, you don't know that there's anything over on the Mechonis until you realize, oh shoot, that's a whole other planet, basically,
area.
quote unquote.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a whole big area, and it's weird. I like the way the game approaches it, but it is like, wow, you don't know what's on that entire other same size as the one you're on right now thing, and it's crazy. But the plot kind of takes a dip after you meet Eggle, and so they go to Sword Valley, and they're like, yo, we need to get to Galahad Fortress because that's where Fiora's being held.
Yep.
And so they've cut the way through Sword Valley, and there's Mechon everywhere. If you don't have Shulk in your party, you're screwed in that regard, because that's nothing but Mechon in all of Sword Valley.
And it's not just him that can take. I mean, he's the only one that can take him out, but he's got that move that
but
makes it to where everybody
he can enchant
attack
the
them,
weapons to
which is
hurt-
nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And until later, you don't have that opportunity, to fight without him really in an area with Mechon.
Yep.
They get there at Galahad Fortress. They have a confrontation with Moomcar, and Shulk actually tries to save him, and Dumban wants to kill Moomcar because Moomcar is there, and they fight, and Dumban almost kills Moomcar there. I was like, what? Yeah, what? Go ahead.
Well, and Moomcar, the reason that Dumban wants to kill Moomcar is in the very first scene, Moomcar's the one that abandons their group.
Yeah, of course,
and leaves him to die. So Dumban's pretty pissed off at this guy at this point.
I'd imagine. Yeah, and he's the one who killed Fiora at the beginning.
Exactly. And
So-
Fiora is Dumban's sister.
Yeah, so for context. And I thought it was a good scene. It allowed character of Dumban to be, in my opinion, that angry about it, because when he'd seen the Mechon before, did he know it was Moomcar? At Prison Island the first time, I'm pretty sure he knew it was Moomcar. But here he acts kind of out of character. He's always the mature one of the group.
He's kind of the big
calm
brother.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and here he's just kind of. He kind of goes nuts about it, and you can explain that away, but it's still kind of, kind of hard to explain.
Yep.
But they fight. Moomcar won't listen to Shulk, who sees a vision of a pillar, this giant pillar falling down and killing him, and when Moomcar sets off a blast, and Moomcar sets off the blast anyway, it kills him. He falls down towards the ocean. It's like, no, not like this. And then they find that, Eggle and Fiora are waiting on them. And Fiora is talking to the main that she's like, help me, please. Help me help Shulk. And she breaks free from Eggle's control. Eggle's like, well, I'm going to wipe all the memory of all the Face Mechon because you aren't listening. And they fight. And Face Nemesis, who's pretty much Mayneth / Fiora is the name of our Mechon. She uses her power. Galahad Fortress explodes, which pretty much sums up the part we were talking about where you can't come back to places. This is one point where you can't come back to Galahad Fortress. And it explodes, and you fall down onto the Mechonis's detached left arm.
Yes.
So.
Yep. She goes into rage mode. She does the classic JRPG girl screaming really loud that creates power that explodes everything, Dragon Ball Z style. Very classic, and blows off the fortress, and you plummet down to the arm that was severed in the opening scene when they were fighting. The two giant robots were fighting.
Let's pause for a moment. That whole setting is great. The fallen arm is one of the best places in the game, in my opinion, like aesthetically.
Well, because you can see the big towering,
absolutely.
The
Sense of
giants.
scope.
Yep.
And there's ocean that's not like a sea. That's not like there's actual ocean around it, which is neat. Swim out too far, you die. That's kind of interesting, thing to have, and I think it's pretty cool. Then after they fall down there, Shulk wakes up and he does the old JRPG. I'm gonna kiss somebody to wake them up from near death type of thing. And
power of love.
Power of love. And she gets up, and some others fall down. They kind of meet their way up at the Machina village. Before then, though, is one of my favorite scenes in the game. It's when Dunban and Ricky are sitting on the beach. That is a great redeeming scene for Ricky, in my opinion. And it's right after they fall down. Do you all remember that scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like the one scene that I was like, oh, okay.
Okay,
no,
Ricky's not too bad.
And then he's annoying again.
And then
Ricky's
the next scene, he's
terrible.
like, "Oh, Ricky Deaky, wanna go play Geeky?" And I'm just like, "Oh God."
He's not quite that annoying,
I don't know.
but he's up there.
He talks about himself in the third person a lot.
Yeah, he says, "Ricky Deaky."
He doesn't say Ricky Deaky.
He doesn't
That's
say
something
that.
you said about my WoW character.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He says, "Hereupon, like Dunban."
Oh, Ricky, love you, Marco.
That is actually
boy.
that's not a bad impression, JJ, of Ricky.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Is this a character from the Labyrinth?
No.
Oh man. This part actually was this is where you meet the other
Machina.
village, right?
This is where you meet the Mechon that are friendly.
Right.
Not Mechon.
Oh, the Machina.
Difference.
They're the only difference is that they are.
Mechon is a racist term, Brian.
Yeah,
Jeez.
sorry.
Good classifying people.
They're like the living. They're the good Mechon. I can't call them that. The Mechon. Mechina.
They're not. They're Machina. They're different.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So stay within the
All right,
canon here. But they meet up there, and Egil sends some more face Mechon after them after erasing their memories, and they need to leave from there to reach the Mechani's capital, Aganathra, where supposedly Egil is resting. And during their journey, they're ambushed by Jadeface, who is revealed to be the guy Sora's been talking about the entire time. That's not Ryan. Gado. He's supposedly killed in the attack on Colony 6. Oh my gosh, he's alive. It's like, okay, that's amazing. We weren't expecting him to come back at any point.
Right.
So I actually kind of expected him to come back in some sort of way because it's never really closed on it. So.
Yeah.
And this is another good part. That alliance that was being built in previous chapters of the game, comes to fruition here and starts attacking Sword Valley while you're trying to get your way up to Aganathra. And I thought that was a pretty cool scene. Some cool things. You get to see the Colonel again, who you haven't seen since the beginning of the game. Square Tash or whatever his name is. And it's just overall, I felt like a pretty interesting part.
Right.
But then we get to pretty much. It's not much. You go through all of the Mechonis. Mechonis is almost the exact opposite in terms of the way Bionis is structured. You go through Mechonis Field, which is pretty much it's like layered. It's floors and stories instead of being wide out.
It's essentially just a place to grind.
Yeah.
So, well, from an aesthetic point of view, I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh no, it's cool. Absolutely. I just mean as far as big plot points and
Yeah.
stuff. Not much
Yeah,
happens till you get to the end of it.
Yeah.
Not much happens at all really in the Mechonis, and that could be a problem with the game is that the Mechonis, it's not really a whole lot of plot driving you through it. It's stuff happens. It's just like, okay, well, we're going to go through this areas, and there's not much happening. There's a little bit of plot here and there, but it's not an absolute ton. And this is also when I think. No. I forgot to mention something. Back when we were at the Fallen Arm, Fiora mentioned that she was starting to malfunction.
Oh, that's
And
right. Yeah.
that was a big point. And she's starting to suffer from that. And Shulk's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So, and but here Shulk starts to struggle using the Monado, and it's really weird. He starts getting like electrocuted by it and stuff like that, and it's nuts as he tries, and it keeps getting worse as he goes up the Mechanis. But
I mean, it starts to disobey him basically for the first time. Basically, he's like, it's not letting him do what he normally can do with the Monado.
I agree.
And it's like it's basically he was kind of touted as the true wielder of the Monado throughout the whole game, and now it's starting to like say no, basically. So you're wondering like why in the heck is that doing this? I'm Shulk. I'm the JRPG main character, so I should be the one who is the savior of all. Why is the sword of the savior of all not working? So it was a very confusing time for the player and for obviously Shulk.
For all of us.
Yeah, for everyone, because no one knew why the Monado was all of a sudden like literally like nope, and didn't it lock you out of the true Monado powers?
Yeah, and it locked you out of something. I don't exactly remember. It had some effect.
Yeah, and I was really frustrated.
Yep.
What happens is, after that, there's not much, honestly, that happens throughout the Mechanis areas. When you finally get up to the point, you get to Aganathara, and you fight Gatto. He's been stalking you for a while. You take him down. You go to where Egil is, like this sanctuary. You fight the thing that's outside of basically his room, and you go in there. And then begins a pretty cool, I thought it was the final boss battle, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
When I first went in there, I was like, wow, this is Egil. Let's get done with, this is the final boss battle. And it's a good fight. You beat him, and then you realize there's a bunch of stuff that happens. First, Shulk tries to have an intervention with Egil. He's like hearing his voice saying, strike him down, kill him. Mm-hmm. And he just decides to say no. They try to talk it out. And that, it works out actually. Egil's like, oh yeah, man. I never saw it like that before.
Yeah, thanks for the words.
Yeah, words of encouragement completely changed the thousands of years of seething hate I had.
Right.
In 5 minutes just changed. And
hey, love and friendship solves everything in JRPGs.
Yeah. He talks about how him and the dude that you thought was named Zanza, his actual name is Argalus, were friends a long time ago, but then Argalus discovered the Monado, and then he went nuts and started attacking stuff, and he's like, oh, that's what caused me to have the seething hate, because he killed a lot of the Machina and destroyed a lot of the Mechanis. And then you're sitting there you're talking, and then you realize that, Egil's finally coming to, and then boom, there's a gunshot, and then Shulk falls down, and you see Dixon pointing the gun, and you're like, Dixon really did. He lived up to his name.
Like, Dixon, Dixon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then just it's a Deus Ex Machina here. Everything just goes nuts. I mean, the plot explodes here, and it just goes crazy. You find out that Shulk has never been alive the entire game. He's kind of been alive, but he has the spirit of the Monado has been in him to keep him alive. And that the guy you thought was named Zanza is not named Zanza. Zanza is actually the name of the creator of the world, who is the soul of the Bionis. And then you figure out that Fiora has the soul of the Mechanis in her, and they fight, and then you retreat, and it's just nuts. The plot explodes there.
At this point, it goes full JRPG. Yep. I think, okay, let's talk about this scene real quick, because I had a huge problem with this scene. A huge problem, and it's the same problem I have with every JRPG scene I've ever seen. You talk the main bad guy out of being bad by the power of your love. Okay, then Maineth comes alive and fights Zanza, who is he made Shulk to be the shell of the new Monado for his new body, and he locked himself up on purpose. And I'm the ultimate bad guy. And so Maineth, of course, in her infinite wisdom, literally Obi-Wan Kenobi's and says, "Here's my Monado, and you can have that too."
Yeah.
So when Zanza, who took your Monado back from you, he took the Monado from you, Shulk now does not have the Monado. Yeah. Her bright idea is to let him kill her so that he can double his power.
Yeah.
I was like, and if you guys remember the last boss fight, I hate you, Maineth. Like, she just was like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, totally, I will be more powerful in the dead. No, you actually make him more powerful, because now he has both Monados.
And the fact that it was revealed that what a Monado is. It hints towards the ending, right? Because you're like, what is a Monado? There's all sorts of Monados. Monado just goes from being a proper noun to a term used so flippantly after that. After that, it's like, well, he has 2 Monados now. It's like, well, 2 Monados? I thought there was only 1 Monado, and then the Monado looks completely different when he holds it because JRPG.
Yep.
So, and it's just like, Dixon's betrayal is like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Doesn't he reveal that he's like, hey, I'm Zanza's
disciple.
buddy. I'm the disciple of Zanza. I'm Dixon. I'm Dixon. I'm on his side for reasons. That's what I got. That's what I gathered from it.
Hereupon, fight Dixon.
Yep, that's true. He just came out of nowhere. Hey, I'm Dixon. I'm going to shoot you. Oh, why? Because I'm that guy's apprentice.
Yeah, it was just like, there were plenty of times earlier when he could have killed them to much more convenience, I guess.
Yeah,
it was like, there's a lot of other times.
It was very arbitrary. That whole scene, it was a cool scene, but I mean, at that point, I think I made a visit, like an audible ugh. Like,
so
no.
After that, Shulk's unconscious. You think he's dead. They retreat back to Colony 6, and you figure out, oh my gosh, Alvis is another disciple. So now you got 2 disciples. Alvis is one, Dixon's the other. The Telethia start attacking, and the Telethia are actually the. Okay, I forgot something. I skipped over something. The Mechonis gets destroyed. That's a big point. The entire Mechonis gets destroyed by Zanza, who's totally like, okay, I'm going to waste Egil. He wastes Egil. Egil's been trying to destroy Bionis the whole time. And then Zanza's just like, okay, I'm going to waste Mechonis. So it destroys the Mechonis. Gato helps them escape. Then they go to Colony. Then they go to, the Fallen Arm. Then they go to Colony 6. Fight off some Telethia led by Dixon. Albus is a bad guy. Then they go up into the Bionis. Figure out that Larithia that you met earlier, yeah, she's totally a villain. There's that really creepy scene with her and Melia's older brother when you fight her. That was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fight, in my opinion, is the most frustrating boss battle in the game against Larithia. She was the worst boss battle I had to face in the game. I had to grind 5 or 6 levels to beat her. So, what did y'all think of it?
I don't remember it, to be honest with you.
Uneventful. Honestly, I didn't really remember. I think I breezed through it.
Really?
Heal bullet!
If you look it up right, it's considered the hardest boss fight in the game, like for most people.
I had the most trouble with the last boss, honestly.
I had the most trouble with the earlier bosses in the game when I was still trying to comprehend the battle system.
Yeah.
Once I got a hold of it, I honestly was fine.
I don't think I died to a boss more than once or twice until the very last boss.
I got you. Well, I thought it was hard. I mean, I had to completely switch up. I went from Dunban, Ryan, Shulk to Fiora, Ricky. No, I'm sorry, Melia, Ricky, Charla. I actually used Charla there.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on from that, after you kill her, you begin this ascent. You get up to the top of Bionis, and you make your way to Prison Island, version 2,
Mm-hmm.
and go through it. And at Pinnacle, you fight this giant dragon who's there for some reason. And after you kill the giant dragon, you go and you fight Dixon. And Dunban tells you before that, the point of no return. The point of no return, apparently, is an hour and a half before the end of the game.
Yeah.
And so you go, you fight Dixon, you beat him, bada bing, bada boom, teleportation out of Prison Island, and you go to where? The solar system.
Yeah, you pass by Pluto. Yeah.
Pluto, you run through that, you fight a few pointless bosses. They're like shades of people you remember, like Moomkar and Zord and all sorts of other people. And you get to the end, you fight Zanza, and Zanza's like, no one can compare to the power of a god, and you fight him. And ending. And what's up with the ending? What do y'all think of the ending? Explain what happens, Brian. I want you to explain
All
this.
right, I'm going to take you through a real quick abridged version of this entire game. Chosen boy of all chosen boys, gets chosen by the sword. The sword turns out to be from a giant blue man locked up in a prison island who, by chance, I did it myself. I wanted to be locked up. Why? Because I wanted to die. Why? Because then I'd go into his soul because of reasons that they never explained. You're going in the solar system after these giant... So you have this whole, this huge world that they built for you, and then you're in the solar system. You pass by Pluto, and you're running past all the planets, and I'm starting to get goosebumps. I'm like, okay, this is going to get really good. And they show you this little tiny scene at the end where there's an international space station up floating around the planet.
Is it legit the International Space
yeah,
Station?
It's like a futuristic version of it, right?
Yeah.
And in this space station, And this is, I'm not kidding you. This is what I'm going to like paraphrase what they talked about, but he's like, I'm going to press this button. She's like, don't press the button. It'll create a universe. This is the girl talking. And the guy goes, but I'm going to press the button. I want to create a universe. And she goes, don't press the button. You'll create a universe. What'll happen to this one? He's like, I don't care what'll happen to that one. I want to press the button. That's literally the conversation they're having.
There's a conversation.
Dude, I'm not kidding you, Mark. I'm not kidding you. He wanted to press a button that would create a universe. And she was like, don't do it. And so finally he presses the button, right? And it, boom, poof, they become the big giant Makan. So she becomes Maneth, and he becomes the Bionis. So their character names, Zanza and Maneth, were their actual names outside of Earth and the planet. The scientist in the orbiting space station, right?
Not.
No, they just made up their names.
Made up names.
New names.
The name of the dude was Klaus. Zanza
That's right.
Klaus.
That's right. And so they can so now that so he pressed the button, right? So she's like, don't press the button. He's like, I'm gonna press the button. So he presses the button because he wants to press the button. He's gonna press the button. He does.
Yeah.
And then for some reason they are like, she's pissed, right? I'm mad. So as her new form, the Makana, she's like, I'm gonna fight you. And so he fights her back as the Bionis, right?
It lasts for millennia.
And you're going like, so you created a new universe and you're still alive, and your first instinct is to be like, you shouldn't have pressed the button. So
it's just a big grudge.
So she's as the giant Makana, she's, no, you pressed the button. And so they're fighting. And then
wait.
What?
They lost their memories for the most part.
But why are they fighting then?
Okay, wait. I don't know why. I can't explain why they're fighting.
No one can.
Plot.
Right.
It's plot, right?
Right.
But the general idea is they've lost their memories because when you kill Zanza at the end, he's like, my memories are fading. And he kind of then it cuts to the thing with the thing,
That's
whatever.
right.
Albus is actually the one who showed you.
Yeah, Alvis. That's the weirdest thing. Alvis is like the AI.
He's the Monado. His name's Monado.
He's like the AI of the pro. I think that they are in a computer program.
It turns out Alvis is Monado, which is
right.
like boom. You forgot to cover something. Shulk, it's the true Monado.
Right, but the way he acts, it doesn't. Don't you think he acts like an AI trying to take you through the program? Like, hi, I'm Alvis, or I'm the Monado. Here is what is happening in this world, and he takes you through this whole thing. And I was like, oh, is this a computer program? He created a universe by pressing the button.
Because Albus was the computer on board the ship, right? No. So obviously Albus is actually the almost like the herald of the world. Like he's the one who goes through the world and he can, I guess, manifest himself in many different forms.
The AI.
But,
yeah. It very mirrored it.
After you defeat Zanza, after you beat Zanza, right, it goes on to Albus is like, so Shulk, you want to be God or not? And Shulk's like, I don't know. And so Albus conjures up the personalities of all his friends who might or might not exist right now. I don't know. And then he's like, his friends are like, oh, you wouldn't be a good god anyway. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't. Let's wish for a world without any gods. I'm like, atheistic overtone much? Yeah. and then they, he's like, boom, shakalaka.
He's not kidding, Mark. This is the ending to the game.
I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on the button. I'm seeing the Dexter's Lab intro in my head right now.
No, I'm not kidding you. It had it was the same kind of thing where it showed the camera over his shoulder and she's standing above him and he's like, I'm going to press the button. She's like, don't do it. It's like that.
Okay, he doesn't just press the button. He moves some levers and stuff.
That's true.
Yeah, Brian.
Calculations.
You can't just create a universe with a button. There's levers involved. Jeez.
Needless to say, I hated the ending to this game.
I loved the ending.
It was cop out after cop out after cop out.
It's a JRPG.
I know, but it's like
it's a cop out. Come on.
It was like remember this huge plot point we were bringing? Oh, well, this is why. And it's like the katana came down on every thread.
I was just glad to have reasons.
I liked it. I really did. I loved the ending. It was perfect ending to a crazy last 10 hours of the game.
In my opinion, when you end a game, you can't add 1,000 things that weren't ever explained at once and be like, this is what, they literally were just throwing stuff at you that it literally felt like it came out of left field. Like, okay, I'm in our solar system and I'm looking at the past, but I'm fighting a guy who's in a computer program. And you're like, you're trying to piece it all together, and they just threw way too much that was out of, it didn't really wrap anything up. They kind of they took the story threads that you followed throughout the game and then just kind of chopped them in half and then just threw them out and we're like, well, but we're just going to take you this way now. And you were like,
Yeah, best way I can explain it is I watched the ending, completely took about an hour and a half to get through all the ending stuff, right?
yeah.
I went and listened to a podcast immediately afterward that broke down the ending, and then I thought I maybe understood what happened in the ending.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very obtuse. It's a lot of Deus Ex Machina. It is just all that stuff piled on top of each other, and I know I admit its weaknesses, but I still love it. But just because I thought it was a good thing, you know.
Don't get me wrong. It was a great game. It's just like there are some endings in JRPGs that are tolerable, and then there are some that I'm just like,
yeah, he's not saying this game is like,
no,
that's the problem.
The game isn't
he's
the
saying
ending.
That's
so
how
it's not as bad
JRPGs
as
are.
that
Yeah.
One Star Ocean game ending, right?
Yeah, I mean,
No, that wasn't the ending of that game.
no,
That's
that
the sad
game
part.
that game was literally the S rank of bad JRPG endings. And they fall into the same kind of category. Like I said, they throw way too much new stuff at you that had nothing to do with anything throughout the entire. A good story takes those threads and kind of ties them into a nice knot and doesn't leave any like jutting like. What? Yeah. And this game literally left me with going like I was literally sitting there after the ending trying to process like, okay,
what happened?
Like, wait, but why did all this matter? Like, what?
And I agree. Like I had when I first played through it, I mean I play so many JRPGs that I've kind of learned to just take it with a grain of salt and be like, oh, okay, cool. However, like, and I'm really glad that I don't try to break down more of these endings because I would probably be like, God, why did I ever start playing these games? But like. This one, my biggest question, and Isaac, I know I asked you this, and it just bugs me. So, they push the button, create the universe.
Universe.
Why is one of them robot and the other one not a robot?
Don't let the details go to your head. It's,
but
don't worry about it.
The only reason that I asked the same question because Alvis specifically said they took on their like the forms of their like being. And I was like, okay, well, it makes sense for the boy to take on the Bionis. He's a human, but was she a robot? And like, why is she a robot now?
Maybe she was an android. You know what? That's what we're going with. She's an android,
dude. That's a brilliant. Maybe and that's a futuristic world. They pressed a button and created a universe so she could be an android. Boom. We just wrapped this up.
See that? Yeah. See that? We solved it.
Oh, and then I have a question. You're very versed in the game, Isaac. What? He made the quote unquote true Monado because of like friendship.
Yep, friendship.
Friendship. Okay,
he realized. Okay, he realized that like he didn't need the real Monado to beat Sansa, I guess, and so he just reached inside himself figuratively and pulled it probably literally out of his butt. And he's like, okay, here's the true Monado. It's like. I guess at that point in the game, he had assumed such a position where I think he was almost like Zanza and Maneth in terms of he was becoming a god at that point. And so I think that's what allowed him. He had so much control over the world via his visions and stuff that he was able to, smoke in the box, create a Monado.
No, yeah, so, I mean the ending just left a lot of. I asked too many questions on the ending. I shouldn't be doing that, and that's the only thing.
Gotta take the ending.
And like I said, JJ is way more adept at like JRPG endings. I've played probably a quarter of the JRPGs JJ's played in his whole life. I mean, he trumps me. So when I see an ending like this, it really like
bugs
like
you.
My eyes go cross because I'm like, it doesn't bug me. I'm not used to that. I'm very much used to Western storytelling, and it's more subtle nuances and to be truthful, Western storytelling is not that they don't shoot as many threads out as JRPGs do, right? JRPGs are very good about like multiple.
They don't try to be too fantastical.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so I'm not used to when a story goes like I feel like it's like Dragon Ball Z is a very good example where every season there's an even more powerful bad guy. I feel like they do that with their endings. They're like, I'm going to one up this point at this point, and then it's just going to keep stacking these like crazy revelations.
And then they get to the end, and they're like, "Crap, what do we do now?"
Friendship. Dude, I'm telling you, he's onto something because I feel like they write themselves into a really bad position, and then they're like, "Yeah, I gotta figure out how to tie this all together." So yeah, the ending. Right. That was my thoughts on the ending. I love the game. Don't get me wrong. I mean, as JRPGs go, oh wow, it's definitely.
Would you say it's the best game on the Wii?
Oh God, yeah, without question, yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the best game on the Wii for me.
For sure.
Obviously, my favorite game of all time. At that point, before I played it, Chrono Trigger was my favorite of all time, and it outpassed Chrono Trigger for me, outpaced it, and it felt like a much not much wholer game because Chrono Trigger is obviously a much more finely tuned experience. But Xenoblade can be kind of a mess in terms of hours spent. There's people that like, for example, and this is a quick plug, if you want a good Let's Play of the game, Chugga Conroy on YouTube is the best source for all things Xenoblade. He has a great 120-part, Let's Play of the game.
Oh, only 120 parts.
Mark, you'd be great.
Only 120 parts.
That's a little too many for me.
155.
108, he would have been fine.
Yep.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, it took me several hundred hours. It felt like I think I was clocked in like 70.
I'll be honest. I feel like I've watched the last season of Lost just now.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Down to the smoke too.
Yep.
I mean,
very similar. Very good analogy there because that's how it felt.
All right, we're gonna try and wrap it up here.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Just out of curiosity, Isaac, what kind of class are you gonna play in the new one?
Kind of class. I don't know. I'll be honest. Okay, I have taken Media Blackout for Chronicles X.
Okay,
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
okay.
Some
Yeah.
people like
But
that.
I mean, you make your own character, right?
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
And if there's most likely if there's a tank class, I'll play that, or a class that's heavily focused on defending.
Okay.
I'll
There you
play
go.
that. But I have gone full blackout on it. I've watched maybe an hour or something of video across since it's been announced. So
I watched the whole Nintendo Treehouse thing, the 40-minute video
Yeah.
that they had with the
was
gameplay.
fantastic.
It looks wonderful.
I mean, I've watched a little bit about it, but all the nuances and stuff I want to experience fresh. So I've went Media Blackout on because that's what Xenoblade Chronicles X was. All I had seen was the trailer that was put up on like the official Nintendo YouTube page. That's all I watched for the original Chronicles, and I went in with like this fresh. And I read the review Nintendo Power, and that was it.
Cool.
It was a fresh perspective on it, and that's what I want for Chronicles X.
All right.
That's why I'm not reading any of the reviews from like the translated reviews from Famitsu or anything. I don't want to experience by any sort of negativity. If it's negative, I want to have that experience. No.
Yep. All right, we got a handful of weeks left.
Yep. December 4th can't get here quick enough.
No joke. I'm excited for it.
got too many games.
You gonna buy a Wii U, Brian, for it?
I don't think right away. I'll probably, golly gee willikers.
Oh, okay.
I want to. I might. My Best Buy card. I just paid that off. I might do that. That might
That's
be
a good idea.
might be my December purchase for my Best Buy
They'll
card.
probably mark
And
it down.
ironically enough,
I
as
know.
much as I love Xenoblade, I'm not getting the collector's edition. I decided I wasn't going to because for Chronicles X because it just didn't have enough for me. It wasn't what I was kind
I'll
of
probably do that. When does the game come out?
December 4th.
I might. That might be my Best Buy. As credit is important, and you have to keep it stoked. And I'm at zero balance right now, so that might be my purchase in December.
There you go.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay.
Christmas present for yourself.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
All right, Isaac. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, we appreciate
problem.
it.
I mean, anybody have anything else to add? That's Brian shaking his head.
Yeah. Oh, I was shaking my head. No.
Oh, just to kind of plug another thing, the podcast I listened to when I first finished the game.
By all means.
There's an old, not the new Operation Rainfall podcast, but there was an old Operation Rainfall podcast. If you can stomach the dated references they use from back in 2013, it's a great spoiler cast for Xenoblade. You can find that on oprainfall.com, and it should be probably under their archived podcast, but it's under the old podcast.
When you say dated references, do you mean like they open the show with Whatta or something like that?
I mean like dated references, meaning they're talking about Pandora's Tower being localized here. That was back in
Okay.
2013. So it's if you just get past the first 20 minutes or so, it is a great step-by-step, kind of like we did here, breakdown of the main points and how they react to the certain points. It's a great listen. I suggest you go listen to that one too, because it would really complement this one in terms of the way they broke it down too. They talked about a lot of different things than what we talked about, but it covers the same game. It's really
Cool.
interesting. So
Sounds good. All right. Well, with that, I think we are going to head out of here for real this time.
Yep. Thanks for joining us for our spoiler cast. Woohoo!
yep, it's been great.
Oh, show. Play Xenoblade if you haven't.
Yeah, do it.
Check it out.
And email me if you think I'm wrong about the ending, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Email him, please.
When I was playing Mass Effect 1 and Sovereign said that I couldn't understand his nature, he
That
was
made
actually
Mark
referring
so
to-
mad.
He was actually referring to Xenoblade.
Yes. That is true.
And he's right.
Yeah, he was right.
Okay. With that, this is the Frozen North signing off for a second time. If you stuck around with us
Yeah.
for the rest of this, we really appreciate you listening. And my name is JJ.
My name is still Mark.
My name may or may not be Brian, allegedly.
And my name is Isaac. Make sure to check out my reviews on fngaming.net.
Absolutely. For the second time, keep on gaming.